Hey everyone, James Lynch here doing a quick reaction video to the news that Arman Tsarukyan has his next fight booked. This according to Arman himself doing an interview with Red Corner MMA. We're going to watch the clip here. He speaks in Russian, but I can read the subtitles as they're happening right now. So here's Arman talking about the fact that the UFC has his next date booked for his fight. We'll hear everything else as well. And of course, Arman having that match with Muhammad Mokaev yesterday where he ended up winning via submission. Let's hear from Arman right now. And then I got another video I want to show you, a little clip here I should mention you guys. So let's check it out. You didn't feel they treated... Oh, hold on. Let's go to the beginning here. Let's see. We talked this morning. Hold on. I'm missing it here. We talked this morning and he gave me a date for my next fight, talking about Arman and Hunter Campbell. By the sounds of it here. You didn't feel like they treated you too badly, did they? Did you? And he says, no. He says, I don't know why Denis speaks ill of me. But I have no problem with them behind the scenes, or any behind the scenes issues. To be honest, I thought you would address Dana once again after such a win, is what Red Corner says. He then says, no, there's no point in addressing him because I don't negotiate with him. I'm in talks with Hunter, which is kind of what we've been hearing. He's in charge of the matchmaking, which is true. Dana probably just approves everything in related to fights, which I would believe as well. It says the actual matchmakers are Sean Shelby and Hunter. Yes, for sure. And what else does he say here? So I've got nothing to say to Dana. I need to ask Hunter for a fight. But we talked this morning. They gave me a date for my next fight. So we don't know the date. That's the only problem here, is we don't know when Arman's going to be fighting. If I had to take a guess, I would imagine International Fight Week, July 11th. That's a card that's always pretty big. Obviously, they have the White House card set, so that's taken out a bunch of names for that event, but that's July 11th. That seems like that would make sense. Now, as far as an opponent, there's a couple different ways we could go here with Arman's next opponent. I mean, first and foremost, let me just say, great news that Arman's getting a UFC fight. I've been very vocal about this. I think the way to get in the good graces of the UFC is to take a UFC fight. I think it's good that Arman's being active, but all this wrestling stuff, grappling matches, I know Hunter Campbell, according to Arman, has said he likes this, but at the end of the day, if he's winning UFC fights, that's going to put him in a better position with the company. So if we're just doing a process of elimination here, I think Oliveira's probably got to be on the table here, right? With him winning against Max Holloway last weekend. That does seem a little bit soon in the sense that Charles just fought last weekend. Not soon as in Oliveira can't take the fight, but like them just already giving him his next fight. That seems a little bit soon, but could be an option for sure. Charles is ranked number 3. Their first fight was very close, right? Arman ended up winning a split decision in that one, and that was back in April of 2024. So it has been a little bit, almost 2 years since that fight. So Charles would be option number 1. They could do Holloway, but Holloway's coming off a loss. I don't really see the point in doing that, and I don't know if Max wants to face another guy who's going to take him down again. The other name that I think could make sense because he's coming off a win is Benoit Saint Denis, and I've heard a lot of people in my chat, and I agree with them. That is a fight that could certainly make sense here with the fact that Saint Denis is coming off a win. And, did defeat an opponent that they have in common, which is Dan Hooker. He ends up getting the finish there. I kind of think that's probably the leading candidate is Benoit Saint Denis, because first off, that's just a great fight. And second, we know the UFC's been very high on Saint Denis as well, right? There was the rumors that had he beat Dustin Poirier a couple fights back, a couple years ago, that he was going to get the title shot. There was talks of that. It was crazy. I mean, I couldn't believe it myself, but they were saying back when he fought Poirier at 299 that they were going to give him a good push. And now he's got 4 straight wins. I could see that being a fight that makes sense, and it's a fresh matchup. I kind of feel like, and again, I have no insight into this whatsoever, but I kind of feel like they would lean more towards doing a Saint Denis fight than doing an Oliveira fight, just because we've seen Oliveira before. And the other thing is, if you do Oliveira and Arman, you're taking one of those chips out of a potential fun fight after this, right? With Oliveira. So if you're putting Arman and Oliveira together, it's not as good as splitting them up and giving them different opponents, right? That's kind of where I think the UFC would like to do things as they're sort of building out their cards or whatever. So yeah, if I had to get, this is just a pure guess here, I think you do Arman, Benoit Saint Denis, International Fight Week. I think that certainly makes some sense. The other card that you could maybe look at here, UFC 328, not saying a main event, but the rumors, there's some rumblings about maybe doing it looks like Brady and Buckley has moved over there. There's some rumblings about maybe Chimaev and Strickland on that card. We'll see. That's in May. Obviously, June's the White House card. So I would think it's International Fight Week because this card does have some good fights on here already. I don't think they would add Arman to this card, although it could be a possibility. It really depends when he wants to fight. But I think just with everything in general, they don't have any fights announced for International Fight Week. I think that certainly makes the most sense. But yeah, just recap. The good news is that it does appear that Arman has a date booked for his next fight. Would be good if he had mentioned the date. And I'm sure they're still early there, but that's good news. I mean, that should be good news for everyone because look, at the end of the day, if Arman fights in the UFC and he wins that fight, chances are good he's going to fight for the title after that, right? So that would make a lot of sense in my opinion. The other thing too that we should consider is that just in case something happens with Gaethje and Ilya, let's hope it doesn't, knock on wood, but in case something does happen, you should use Arman as an option to step in there on short notice, I think, because if that fight goes, that's going to really take a hit on that White House card. So the fact that you get Arman already in a camp and booked for a fight, granted it would be, a number of weeks later, I think that would be a good backup plan as well, just to have Arman ready to go just in case something happens during that fight too. So I think it would make sense to have an International Fight Week. Again, May's coming up here pretty soon, so I'm kind of leaning more towards that. So my official guess on this, and we'll see if I'm right or not, is Benoit Saint Denis International Fight Week. Again, I have no insight into this, but that's kind of where I'm sort of leaning. The other thing I wanted to mention on this video, and I'm going to continue harping this because, again, I still have people in denial that the punch that he landed on Georgios after the RAF fight somehow helped his case for a title shot here. Again, they already determined the next title shot is going to be Gaethje and Topuria. Here's Arman talking about on Jackson, and again, shout out to Red Corner for clipping this, saying, I've got to be a good boy now, acknowledging he must behave well outside the UFC. Now, this is something I said in that initial video when the whole thing happened with Arman and at RAF, and I had people tell me, no, it helps his case and all this stuff. But I'm like, listen, you got to remember, we're looking at this through the lens that the UFC was not happy with the Dan Hooker headbutt. They were not happy with him getting into it with that fan a couple years back. They weren't happy with what happened at 311. So this kind of lines up with that. So let's hear Arman talk about that a little bit. I'm going to skip the Bisping part just because Bisping swears and I don't want to get demonetized here. But here's Arman talking about, what's next. So this was, I think, before the, actually, let me check the timestamp on here. 2:46, and this was 4:12. So this was actually after the Red Corner posted this from their interview. So let's hear from Arman.
And then we heard you say that Hunter and the UFC likes what you're doing. Do you think they love how active you're staying? Do you think that this is making your character for the UFC bigger? You think you're doing a good job?
I think so. Just last week was a little bit over controlled that I punched. It was not that right.
I was a little bit over control and that punch wasn't right. That's what he's saying here. So again, this is coming from him saying this, right? Over controlled. What does that mean? That means, UFC probably not happy about that.
But
yeah, but you're staying in the public eye.
So Bisping tries to kind of argue this, which is what a lot of you have been telling me, like, oh no, it's good to stay in the public eye and all that. I just think, again, if you're coming through the lens of Arman's got to be on his best behavior, that doesn't really make sense. Here's the thing, if somehow they would have allowed punching in that fight and Arman won that way and it was allowed and he did that and it went viral, then yeah, that's a different story. But again, he did something, and listen, I know people feel like Giorgio deserved it. That's a whole debate for itself. He was acting a little bit cheap in that fight. I shouldn't say a little bit. He was very cheap in that fight. And Arman, understandable, he would be upset. The point is that you don't want to do things that make you a liability, and him doing something after the fact would make him a liability here. So we're going to skip Bisping's part. Not because I don't want to hear him, because he swears a bit. Here's Arman after this. So he's kind of talking about how the UFC feels about him. Here's Arman again.
Yeah.
Just try a little bit, keep it in line.
So I'm in the real life, I'm a good boy, but once in the fighting,
come on, don't lie for him. But
yeah, but
I don't think they. There's nothing they haven't seen at this point.
I gotta be good boy now.
Yeah.
I've got to be a good boy now, just like it says here in the tweet. What does that mean? I got to be on my best behavior. So does that not line up with what I was saying, that this is what the UFC wants out of him? Whether it's Dana, Hunter, doesn't matter. That's sort of the parameters of this, right?
You got to try.
Yeah.
Just try a little bit, keep it in line.
So I'm in the real life, I'm a good boy, but once in the fighting,
come on, don't lie.
In the real life, yeah, I'm a good boy. In the
I
fighting,
saw him being a good little boy once. I saw him and his dad. I was out shopping in Dubai.
Oh, yeah. Really?
Anyways, just wanted to bring that up because I had people telling me that this helped his case for a title shot, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. And here's Arman himself saying he has to be a good boy now. So what does that mean? UFC was not happy about that, okay? Can we finally close the book on this, or am I still going to get people in the comments telling me otherwise? But anyways, just wanted to point that out. But main point of this video, glad to see Arman has a date book. Let's wait on the opponent. I'll obviously do a follow-up video once we know who he's fighting and what the exact date is. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is this good? Are you happy to see Arman get another fight here? Who do you think it could be? Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.